Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon or this evening. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than our brother Najeem Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation with us. It was an it was an honor to meet you in person a couple weeks ago at the event with Dame Dash and on
Yes,
Jekyll
sir.
Island. Yes, sir. You carried yourself as a top FOY and humble spirit, and I could just tell. I was like, okay, this brother's he's one of us. He's a mutant, you know what I'm saying? And I found out you were a nation baby, so it was like it all makes sense. Yes, sir. But speaking of that, we're gonna come to mental health, but let's discuss you're accepting your own and being yourself.
Yes, sir.
When well, I gotta ask the same question I asked everybody else, but you were born in the nation, but when did you do you recall hearing the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for the first time?
For the first ever time, I know there was started off as a little study group in Richmond, California.
Mm,
I know there was another building close to the one that I remember going to, but that was the first ever time I stepped foot into a mosque before. And I was well, at least where I had memory of stepping into one. Um, I had to be about 3 or 4 years old, no older than that.
mm,
And I just remember, also getting my hair cut from student minister brother Charles Muhammad out of California. May Allah be pleased with him.
please.
As well as brother Yusuf out of California. I know he's in Rialto, California, along
Mm,
with Brother
mm,
Ali, one of the sons of one of the pioneers of the West Coast, student
mm.
Brother Sultan. Um, yeah, so that's the first time that I recall. It was in Richmond, California.
Richmond, California. Praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. Now, once all children who are brought up in a way of life and or a religion have to make a decision when they get to a certain age, when they're about to get out of high school and move it, to accept that belief system on their own.
Right.
What what was it that made you decide to say this is the correct way of life for me?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I realized that it was the right thing for me because I came into the knowledge for myself that of who I was supposed to be growing up. Um, I was about 17 or 18 in my senior year of high school. I already knew, like, even from a young age, I wanted to be a writer, but I just
Okay.
didn't know where that would take me. Um, so I already started off with using my gift of writing for like having certain conversations with my friends through text in particular, just to at least like encourage them or to help them get a certain perspective or to even build on certain topics. One of the things people would tell me is like, you should be a therapist. Um, and what that began leading up to was, with me and my skills and talents of being a writer and inspiring people. In my yearbook, in my high school yearbook, I was just flipping through the pages and they had a page that was about, like a violet pinkish color, talking about the different things that certain students would do. Like, for example, like the person who's more likely to cure a disease or, the best person at this or that.
Yes, sir.
On the
Yes,
top,
sir.
it said future superhero. And I remember I was named along with another student. Her name was Leah. And I was looking and thinking to myself, like, why did they choose me? Because out of all the other people, I thought they could have chose. And but I remember having a thought to myself, like, okay, if I'm going to be like in any kind of position or in any function of leadership, or if I'm going to be inspiring, healing, and encouraging people, I have to have some sort of foundation in order for me to be strong. And I didn't know any other place to do that other than the Nation of Islam. the
mm,
teachings of
mm,
the Most Honorable
mm,
Elijah Muhammad under the guidance of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. I didn't know any other one because I grew up going to Muhammad University of Islam in Oakland, California. And, they made sure we were on our P's and Q's. I mean, they're strict about pretty much anything, spelling, handwriting, organization. So all of that, I thought to myself, I was like, I might not be prepared for that, but I know deep down that it's supposed to help me. And
mm,
so gradually over time, I got the courage to do that. And it wasn't just the structural aspect of it, but it was also the spiritual aspect of it too.
mm,
It
mm,
was the fact that Islam isn't supposed to take away who you are, but it's supposed to amplify and make manifest who you are. And when I found that out and I discovered that, I really discovered that going to a Juma prayer, Savior's Day in Detroit in 2020.
mm.
That was like the last Savior's Day before the pandemic shut everything down. But I remember it was something that prayer specifically did, and being around those believers. I then immediately started to remember again all the things that I really wanted to do. And when I remembered that, I said, I see what this is supposed to do. This is really supposed to bring me closer to it and bring out of me what is
Mm.
within me.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Brother Najeem. Yes, sir. People showing you love all around the world. Thank you, Sister Naima and Sister Miriam, for both saying assalamu alaikum, salam. Shout out to our YouTube family as well. Okay, I want to stay right there. Once you discovered your purpose, um, how does that tie into mental health?
Well, the scripture I think of is as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So when you're talking about mental health, you're really talking about the health and the well-being of the core aspect that makes up man and woman. So,
Mm,
in Dianetics, it talks about psychosomatic illnesses where someone's thinking can actually cause them to be sick. So if we don't get to the core, and if we don't get to the mind that's causing the sickness, that's causing conflict, that's causing violence, that's causing corruption, then eventually it'll just keep happening over and over and over again. Like, for example, um, it gives an example on how, you know, like this certain computer that it computes different equations. 2 + 2 = 4. So you press the button 2, press the button plus, and you press the button 2 = 4. But if you hold down a 7, for example, while you press 2 + 2 is going to equate 11. It's true in their mind. So if we don't continue to attack what's causing a person to act a certain way, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, we can tell them to do something, but if they have an ingrained idea of something that totally contradicts whatever we're trying to instruct them to do, then it'll go in one ear and out the other. And
mm,
that's part of the reason why I know for young people, it's best to listen to them and to dissect whatever it is they're thinking before we just jump to the conclusion to lecture them, because their mind is already full of so many things all at once. So the best thing to do is to allow them to have an outlet so that if their mind is empty, then eventually their mind will be open. It's
mm.
difficult to keep an open mind when it's already so full of things that they're trying to handle and they're hanging on by a string. So, my purpose to inspire really, I mean, we have to be able to be right mentally and psychologically because, if we're inspired but we don't have the right mind, then we might be inspired to do the wrong thing or we might get the wrong idea.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Go ahead, Brother Najeem. All right. And thank you everyone who was watching. I wanted to ask you, sir. So that means you know Brother Jabril from Oakland who lives in Chicago now.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I interviewed him twice and great brother and shout out to him and the family. Shout out to the MUI Oakland. Yes, sir. Um, I wanted to ask you about Reiki. Now, how did
Hmm.
you discover Reiki? And can you explain it to us?
Hmm. Yes, sir. So Reiki is really a natural healing therapy that deals with energy or frequency. But everything in life has frequency to it. Sound, music, even fruits and vegetables, as well as emotions. So the frequency or the energy that we're dealing with is the energy of the earth, 7.8 hertz. And you're basically channeling that or activating that with your hands. And you run it over a certain body part over someone for about 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on, the condition of that body part, until it feels more balanced, more clear, more relaxed. So this is a good, natural, very gentle therapy that can be used to help deal with the effects of muscle tension, potential chronic pains or, tissue damage. It can even help with, reducing anxiety or depression or anger, frustration, stress. Um, and it was founded by Dr. Usui in the early 1920s. He did a 21-day fast, and that's when he discovered it. And by the grace of Allah, his work has been carried on to this day. And more hospitals are using it even. I used to do Lyft, and I was driving someone that said they just came back from a Reiki appointment. So it's up and growing now.
Mm,
And
mm.
the way I found it is very interesting because I'm a writer of poetry also.
Yes,
And
sir.
one of the first books that I put out is titled Lost Sheep. And the concept was to basically undergo a process of self-discovery and healing. And I wish I had it next to me, but um, it had like a nighttime atmosphere with mountains with a purple glow behind it, a tree that was glowing like a neon green and blue and a purple, along with you could see basically a black silhouette, which was supposed to be me. Around it had this turquoise glow around it as well, symbolizing healing. It was just something that I saw in
Mm,
my
mm,
head, and then months later, I found myself doing the exact same thing
mm.
that I saw in my head, and I was like, I saw that. And the concept was to basically end off with me going back to my childhood and revisiting something in order to find closure. And I was just doing it instinctively, not really having a deliberate reason why I was doing it. I was just like, it just seemed interesting to me, and it resonated. So I happened to be reading some poetry from that book. Brother Farrakhan, Khan, who does the Here After Farms project,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
with another sister, a live where some of the young believers all over the country in the Nation of Islam could just share their gift, whether it was music, singing, poetry. And I happened to be reading from that book. That's when I got into contact with Sister Vanessa out of New Jersey, who
Mm.
is a Reiki practitioner. For some reason, you know, she was almost like a mother figure, just checking up on me every now and then. In my mind, I was just like, all right, well, I don't know who this is or why they're checking up on me, but instinctively, I was just like, okay, let's just go through with it because, we're taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that 75% of the work is with the woman.
Yes,
It
sir.
wasn't just talking about physical functions. So, we can't just anticipate physical functions from the woman and totally deny the mental and the spiritual gifts that they provide to us. So I said, let me listen. Let me just listen. She ended up ordering for me a book that was titled Reiki Healing for Beginners, I believe. I was never attuned for Reiki at the time. I was looking at it and I said, seems nice if I knew how to do it. And I didn't know she was planting seeds back then. I didn't know. And keep in mind, the book cover was the same color that that aura that I drew around me.
Yes, sir.
That's what drew me in. I was like, okay. And it was about last year April, March or April, where she introduced me through social media to Sister Iman, Dr. Iman Muhammad Ali. And that's when um, she basically did what's called a chakra reading, where with just your name, stating out your full name, she's able to like basically look at your energy.
Mm.
And when I tell you she read everything down to the T, I said, wow, it's like this is no joke. So that's when she mentioned to me that she was having a retreat next to Jekyll Island in Georgia, a place called the Hostel, where she's actually, teaching people how to do it. And I remember just how much of a high I was just hearing that. I said, yeah, I gotta go. And I remember when I had my first session, um, that wasn't my first session, but I had a session from her around maybe October or November. No, it was more like October. And she mentioned to me that one of the symbols that you can activate, it can actually go through space and time, meaning that you can send energy back to a certain time period or to like a certain part of yourself, whether it's in the past or in the future.
Yes, sir.
And I said, that sounds just like the concept that I was trying to write, closing out the book. And I was like, oh, I see why. I see why. I see why I was led to find this. Well, I wouldn't say that I found Reiki, but I would say Reiki found me. And I've been, a Reiki practitioner since November. And by the grace of Allah, if it be the will of Allah, I will be a Reiki master by this upcoming November.
Good. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Okay, and thank people are showing you love all around the world, and thank you very much for your transparency, your gift, and your honesty. I wanted to ask you, sir, and first of all, how do you pronounce it? Because I want to make sure that we're not saying the wrong thing. How do you
Oh,
say it?
Najeem.
No, no, not your name. Is it Reiki or Reiki? Like, how do you say that?
Oh, I see. Reiki.
Reiki. Okay, yes, I just want to make sure we're saying the right thing. Okay, I'm pronouncing it the correct way. Um, yes, sir. So once you become a master, then how do you is it a living? You know what I'm saying? You make a living off like people gonna call you. How do people? Because people gonna watch this and they gonna want to know how can they get healed? And, so how does that work?
Well, somebody would have to take you through a process called attunement.
Mm,
Right now, I'm up to as high as doing level 2 Reiki healing. So,
okay.
in order for you to get to that, you have to go through 2 attunement processes, which can be done within a matter of a weekend or so. And for anybody who has trouble with like traveling or anything like that, Dr. Iman, she has virtual classes also to help
Mm.
attune people. And so basically it's a process where she could basically walk you through it. And what happens is your crown basically gets open up here. It gets open and it gets activated, and you'll be able to. Basically a permanent attunement, and some people make a living off of it. I myself, I'm a I'm a brother with many gifts, talents, dreams, goals, and aspirations. So, but to make a living off of it is something that I could do, and it's something that other people can do. But of course, anything, that it takes a process to build something up like that because you need, of course, legal documents, insurance, just like any other business, pretty much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
but I know for myself, it's been more of a personal journey more than anything, and within that personal journey, also inspiring other people to embark within their healing journey in whatever way they may see fit.
Mm.
Um, so whether it's Reiki, whether it may be in Dianetics, whether it might be do deep prayer, meditation, walking around in nature, whatever the case may be. And But there's plenty of other ideas, if it be the will of Allah that, I just want to move forward into with just this tool that I'm using to heal myself and also get closer to the true essence of myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful. And thank you for everybody who has comments and questions. Brother Najeem, is there a way for people who are watching or viewing the People's Podcast to contact you?
Yes, absolutely. First, through my email, which is my first name, Najeem 27 at outlook.com. Or you can contact me through my Instagram, which is iam.najeem.
Wonderful. We have a brief 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. We are grateful for every like, share, and subscription. Thank you all to all the People's Podcast affiliates. Thank you for every anonymous Cash App. 1 second. We're coming right back to our brother Najeem, who's doing a phenomenal job. 1 second. Oh, there we go. And we are live with the People's Podcast, True Premier Media. A 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out if you need any of that. Sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ. My two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Perfect. All right, great. I wanted to ask you, thank you for everyone who's watching. Also, please let us know which city you are viewing the People's Podcast, as well as if you have any guest suggestions, feel free to put those in the comments section. Brother Najeem, I wanted to ask you, you spoke of the essence, and could you just go more into the value of Reiki for people who, because somebody like me, who an avid fan of Marvel, DC, but more Marvel, X-Men. I just believe we got powers. Let's tap into it. That's my thing. But some people who just may not understand the power of the mind, or remember like Professor X, and could you help explain, say why, the value to on the everyday, the day to day, what's the value of knowing your essence and being at peace and being centered and attuned?
Yes, sir. Well, it's real. I see it as an outlet, firstly. When I think about having an outlet, everyone has a limit. Everyone has a limit of how much anger, frustration, or stress that they can take, or how much of a workload that they can take until they reach a certain breaking point, or up until they explode. It's like, for example, many dryers, for example, have that vent where it collects dust.
Yes, sir.
And you want to empty it out on an occasion, because if you don't empty it out and it just keeps collecting dust, it can catch on fire. There's always a certain breaking point that a person has. If they don't explode, they might self-destruct quietly. So whenever, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, first of all, he told us to study the white man. So a brother and I in North Carolina, who I used to stay with, Brother Arshad, I thank Allah for that brother. We were in a city called Asheville, North Carolina, for my birthday, last birthday. And I was on my first 3-day fast, and I was on top of the world. And we were talking about how you see that in a lot of white communities, they have tennis courts, they have, parks where they walk their dog around, play fetch with them. They have all of these outlets. And so it's good to have a healthy outlet or a means of being able to recollect oneself, to be able to rest, not just physically, but also mentally. Because without that moment of rest, then eventually we won't find the proper repair of ourselves. So we all need a time and an opportunity to recollect, because after around the 4th or 5th hour of actual physical sleep, that's when the restoration of the cells start taking place. So if we're constantly working, if we're constantly thinking, if we're constantly stressing, then eventually without that rest, it can lead to a quicker death.
Mm.
And, it's very important to have something like that because as Black people, we don't really know what an outlet is. We hold things to ourselves.
Yes, sir.
And unfortunately, our means or definition of escape or outlet is something that is detrimental to our health.
Every time.
You know, it's not that it's bad, but at the same time, it has to be something that's healthy, something that we can unplug from everything that's artificial or systematic or fear-based, because all of it is really destroying our health one way or another. So like I remember student minister Dr. Ava Muhammad said in her lecture titled Burnout, which was delivered in 1999,
Mm.
she talked about getting proper rest. And she went through a certain line of questions. What kind of mattress do you have? What position are you sleeping? How many hours? Do you have a TV in your room? Is it on all night? Because all of these are factors that can hinder our ability to get the proper rest that we need. And as Sister Iman told me and many of her students, that getting a 1 hour of Reiki session is the equivalent to getting 4 hours of rest.
Mm.
And so I see it as a really important tool because unfortunately, for a world that, you know, idolizes profit, they miss the opportunity to prioritize health and wellness. So they're going to do everything that they can to get the dollar, but nothing for our own care. So they will sabotage and compromise our care just for their profit. So in a world like that, we have to be able to learn some therapies because after being conditioned in this kind of world for over 400 years, unfortunately, we don't have too many of those outlets. And unfortunately, in the Black community, whenever we do have those, sometimes we may frown upon it because it may not be looked at as being strong or being faithful. But these are tools along with many other ones that we need.
Yes, sir. And thank you again for everyone who's watching. And thank you, Brother Najeem. I wanted to ask you, will you ever go into the ministry?
I was, I
Oh,
was
you
at
already
one
in the ministry. Okay, okay, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
point, but
Beautiful. Yeah, I can tell. I can tell. You're gonna be a good minister. First of all, I want to stay right there with Dr. Minister Ava. May Allah be pleased. Um, someone who was attuned and always kind to me and the people that she interacted with. Everybody go look at the interviews that I've done with her by the grace of Allah. And I just think that wavelength, that level of peace and contentment, and it's just something that came out of her and it's coming out of you as well. People who just focus on mental health, I just think it's something that's very serious in many communities, primarily ours, and individually. The goal to be centered is something very powerful. I wanted to ask you, sir, about how valuable has your writing been to your mental health?
mm, it's been very wonderful. It's I see writing as an ink form of meditation.
Mm, mm, mm.
So, when they talk about anything that's premeditated, it took a deeper thought. It took more deeper consideration. So the deeper that we can reflect on something, the more we can understand it. And the more that we can gain mastery over what we're trying to understand or trying to incorporate. So writing has allowed me the time and the space to process thoughts, as well as to allow them to resurface, then getting closer to the opportunity to release them. So the more that we can be able to think and meditate on it, to recollect our thoughts and then put them onto display, with them being made manifest, we can get a deeper comprehension over them. And we can get a step closer to understanding ourselves and also expressing ourselves, which is healthy too. Because, expression, for example, the EX, the prefix in that word is EX, meaning out. And then express, press, meaning pressure. So the more we express ourselves, the more we are letting out the pressure of whatever may be burdening in us, or the more we're letting out the pressure of our past frustrations and may not being able to be our full selves. So writing has definitely helped me to really just process whatever I'm thinking about that's bothering me, and to help me to come to deeper realizations of something that I'm really trying to understand. And in reality, um, the Holy Quran talks about the heavens and the earth being created with truth.
Yes, sir.
So really the truth that we seek, as we always see that nature has a direct correlation with human nature, an answer that we might find on the outside, we can find a reflection of that on the inside. So we will be very shocked at the answers that come out of our own mouths or from our own pen being put on paper whenever we just allow ourselves the time and space to express ourselves. Whether that be through writing, speaking, or even art.
Yes, sir.
Because we are divine beings. And the more that we connect with ourselves, the closer we get to that divinity. And the more that begins to pour out. So, like when we listened to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, the album by Kendrick in
Yes,
2022.
sir. Yes, sir.
So he dropped it, I think it was in Worldwide Steppers. He said, "Writer's block, nothing moved me. I asked God to speak through me. That's what you hear, the voice of yours truly." So really, we all have the potential to tap into the God power,
Yes, sir.
not just scientifically or spiritually, but also artistically and through literature. And we would just be shocked at his ability to be able to take over whatever it is that we're doing. So it's not only is it something that I can understand myself, but it was also a great opportunity for me to get closer to Allah.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Brother Najeem. And thank you, everyone who's watching. I wanted to ask you about your parents, sir. Who are your parents, and make sure we uplift their name and thank them for, you know, bringing you, being the vessel that Allah used to bring you into this world.
Now that you say that, I see a picture of my mama right here.
Okay, okay.
I didn't want to get up this time, but I had to. So this is a photo of my mother right here. We're with Mother Khadija, and this is myself here. This is, I believe, 2009. This is Sister
Okay,
Salima, and my father is Brother Alonzo. Right now, he's in Oakland, California.
okay.
And they got registered when they were about 15, 16 years of age, and so they both been registered for about 30 years. Um, my parents, they were always like the brother and the sister that, everyone would say they're just really good people. I know my father always told me the story about how, shortly before I was born, he took really good care of my mother. So I believe that, along with the gentle spirit that my mother has, you know, produced me being just a real calm, laid back person, very transparent person. Um, yeah, so my father, he's a huge hip hop head.
Okay,
Um,
okay, okay.
always driving from Muhammad University from Oakland to Fairfield, which is about an hour commute, at least on a good day, because California traffic crazy. And so maybe about an hour and a half on the way back. But he would, play the classics like Most Def. I forgot which album that was,
I'll be
but
black on both
so
sides.
I know it came back, and then that too.
Okay.
But I know
Okay.
there was another one that came out around '06, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and then of course, Food and Liquor by Lupe Fiasco
Yes,
and
sir. Yes, sir.
Jay-Z, The Blueprint,
Of
those
course.
volumes. And of course, my mother always playing, the R&B classics. So, that caused me to be very artistically inclined. And just the kind of example that they set out, I mean, I would hardly ever see them have like any grudge toward anybody. You know, I wouldn't really see them really that frustrated with me at all either. So, I'm thankful for that example because, I mean, it allowed me to be able to believe in showing grace to people rather than
Mm,
giving up so easily or thinking conditionally and not taking into consideration seeing the bigger picture of another person's potential or you know the example that my mother gave just allowed me to really see a grand picture of how God's love operates. It
mm.
helped me to understand the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his method in being able to get the millions of our people. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about him that through you, I will get all of my people.
Yes, sir.
And now I'm sorry, I firmly believe that. So that whenever I see a brother or a sister, I'm not so forceful as to how I want them to operate. I'm always listening. I'm always striving to listen. I'd rather listen and let them talk than talk, honestly, for the most part.
Yes, sir.
But I always, it doesn't matter where our people are. I could just sit and just look at them, especially the children too, wherever they are or wherever their belief system may be. I could just sit and just be so happy that they're there
Mm, mm,
because,
mm,
I just see so much magnificence within our people, so much greatness coming out of them. So, I'm thankful for that because I believe that's where a certain long suffering and transparent spirit comes from.
mm.
Definitely comes from my parents too. Definitely.
Beautiful. All praises to God. Shout out to your parents. Okay, let's stay right there. What is your favorite album of all time, sir?
Woo, man. Now, I can't just do one. I can't just
Okay.
do one.
Okay.
If anything, I would have to choose some of the ones that I play any without skipping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Bubba by K Tronada is good.
Okay.
Lupe Fiasco, Food and Liquor.
Okay.
Damn by Kendrick Lamar.
Of course.
Um, To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Taboo by Denzel Curry. So now Denzel, that album was dropped in 2018. He
Mm.
started off rapping in Florida, Dade County, Florida, same
Okay.
area
Okay.
where Rick Ross is from. And he was rapping with a group called Raider Clan around 2011, 2012. And that's where he started off along with some other rappers around the country. He broke off around, I would say, 2016 to do basically his own thing, like many artists do. Um, he made the Double XL freshman list in 2016, along with 21
Okay.
Savage, Lil Yachty, Lil
Yes,
Uzi.
sir. Yes, sir.
Um, but Taboo is basically it's so it just blows my mind every time I hear it.
Mm, mm.
It's a
Okay.
it's a
Put me on. You put me on with that
takes
one.
he takes the style of new artists, but his lyricism is almost up there with Cole and Kendrick. Like I'm not
Okay.
even joking. He switches up his rap flow not only in every song, but in every verse in every song. I have never heard him
Mm.
do that before.
Okay. Okay.
So that would definitely be my top five. And I have to say I'm glad that Lupe he's dropping another album this month too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. You are one of the only people who ever mentioned Lupe on top five. There's a brother named Marvin. He's from Chicago, like me. So we're like the Lupe. We always talk about Lupe. But yeah, I'm glad that somebody else mentioned Lupe when when you came on. Okay,
Gotcha.
but Denzel Curry, Taboo. I know you don't put me on. I'm gonna give him. I'm gonna listen to this. I'm gonna give it a chance. Where can we get your writing of Lost Sheep? Is it on Amazon? Where? How can we get that?
Yes, it's on Amazon. I have a second book also. It's titled Soul Tales.
So
Both
it's
of those on Amazon. Currently working on the third one. I put a release date at first, but I don't think I can because, I'm constantly adding things to it. And some more ideas just keep growing out. I'm just like, yeah, I just gotta put it all out.
wonderful. And Brother Najeem, do you act?
No, I don't. I want to.
Okay, I'm gonna say, as somebody who's in acting, I think you would be a good actor as well. So you articulate yourself very well. Um, Man, I just wanted to salute you again, salute your family. Thank you for this. Make sure we all go support our brother with his projects. Let's make sure we all keep our mental health up with Reiki. Let's reach out to Brother Najim if you need any of these services. Once again, thank you for having the just a positive energy when I met you in on Jekyll Island. It was an honor to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And that's one last question about your father. Does he is he in tech? Does he do tech stuff?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's why everything's a small world. So this had to be 4 years ago. I was having some technical issues, and I know a sister who comes on the podcast um, from Oakland named Malika Ubaka, and she was like, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I
Yeah.
know a brother. She was like, I know a brother who can help you and your dad. We said Brother Lonzo from Oakland. I'm like, I don't be one Brother Lonzo from Oakland. He took over my laptop. It was like fixing it from Oakland and taking it. He was like, oh man, just do this and delete this and this boom boom. You'll be good for college. I was like, thank you, brother. So that's your dad, man. Small world. All praise
All
to him.
praises. Yes. Yes.
Shout out to your father, man. Well, shout out to your mother too. But it was just when you said, I was like, oh, so I was like, yo, I think he helped me with my computer, my freshman year of college. So yeah,
Wow.
thank you. Shout out to Brother Lonzo. Shout out to you as well. May Allah continue to bless you. You. This is why we do the People's Podcast, and this is great. May Allah continue to bless you. Thank you, everyone who's watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
Brother Najim, would you come back? Brother Najim, would you come back and do some of your poetry as well?
Yes.
Do a couple pieces of the spoken word poetry, and we'll make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
It'll be my honor. Thank you all for watching. Well, thank you, sir.